question. Am I wearing hearing aids? Am I wearing hearing aids? I can't hear you. Am I wearing? Yes, I am wearing hearing aids. Second question. How many dangly things, such as these strings, are hanging down from my safu? How many? Who said that? No. The answer is 9. What color are my socks? Black. What? Who said black? And white. Which arm do I have my Molly beads on? Left. I'm sorry? Left. Well done. Well done. Welcome to the semi-annual Pay Attention Day. Look behind you at the clock. 34% of people on this day do not at their clocks. Paying attention, we say. Attention is a glob of awareness that slips and slides, but stays generally around the object it is attending. A cloud of awareness that settles on the point of attention. Now, William James didn't put it that way. We might say things like, don't take your eye off the ball. This is rather a penetrating phrase in a couple of ways. You don't want to lose track of that darn ball because you might lose it. Or if you were a batter, you might get hit in the head with that darn ball. So what is this awareness that supersedes attention? We have 5 different abilities to be aware. Seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, smelling, and then the processing through the brain of what we are aware of. This awareness is a baseline capability. If you could not see me, you could not answer my questions. 2 of them. If you could not hear me, you could not answer my questions at all. So your abilities combined with your awareness creates your sense of attention. I'm going to talk today about 3 things. One is transactional or economic view of paying attention. The second is a meaningful, or rather mindful, view of paying attention. And the third is a meaningful view. Transactional, mindful, and meaningful. I'm going to suggest that all of these are required and used by us every day in order to pay attention. I was asked this morning by my colleague here on the dais, why aren't you in full robes? That's paying attention. Well, I'm actually in what is called a samu. This is a working variety of a monk's outfit. The weather suggested it. I felt like it. Therefore, here I am. So when we talk about attention, we can talk about it from this economic point of view, which I will offer now. The idea of giving and taking, accepting, receiving, and letting go, all constitute this idea. The idea of paying attention, using paying as a transaction. How does one pay attention? Interesting, and let's see if we can explore that in some detail. I am in my 82nd year. I was born with certain capabilities of seeing, hearing, touching, tasting, feeling, and thinking. All of us were born with different ranges within those possibilities, all of which determines our ability to pay attention. When we're growing up, we pay attention to acquiring, and as we age, we pay attention to letting go. This paying of attention is our interpretation of value. Interesting fact, as of January 1st, baby boomers, do we have any baby boomers in the audience? Would you raise your hand? This is if you are in the older group of baby boomers, you turn 80 this year. 46 to 64. So paying attention is going to change for all of us. If we think of paying attention as a scarce resource, we just have so much of it, we could say. Zero sum. Where do we want to pay our attention? Well, we get up in the morning with an idea. We want to pay our attention well and meaningfully. And then stuff begins to happen. These things that we acquired in our youth, and our youth is everything below 80, in our youth, then has to be sorted. And we run into possibilities. So this opportunity cost is quite simple. Where do we spend our time? Spending our time here means we're not spending it over there. If we're spending our time here and we feel something happening over there, then we are multitasking, which means that we are doing less with both. So I want to talk about kind of a logical approach to paying attention. And I'll use something we all love, the calendar. How many of you have calendar apps on your computer or something? All of these baby boomers raise their hand, I see. This calendar app, calendar, is time-driven attention paying. Let me see how I can schedule my time to pay attention within these blocks. 6:05, 6:10, 6:11. How I do that, and then see what happens. I have demonstrated already this morning of making mistakes, which what is written down very clearly on the order of service. Most of my paying attention these days is correcting the mistake that I made with the last thing I was supposed to be attending. But that's useful, it's important, it's critical to pay attention so you know what you did not do to determine whether or not that is valuable enough to spend more attention on. These apps now, they're color-coded. They can speak to you. You can summarize them in terms of people you know. You can look at it in terms of connections to other apps, and you can spend your whole time playing with the calendar rather than actually doing what you are supposed to be paying attention to. That is the accumulation aspect. As I mentioned, for most of us who raised our hands indifferent, did not, that this idea of attention from a logical or reactional standpoint is where we spend most of our time. Does anyone here remember the old Our Gang comedy series? Raise your hand as the baby boomers once again express themselves. This was out of probably the 30s, I would say. There was a group of kids and led by, I believe, Darlene, if I'm not mistaken. But you had Spanky, Darlene, Froggy, Alfalfa. They taught me something very early about paying attention. What do you do before you cross the street? How? Ah, you weren't paying attention. You're right in terms of you do look both ways, but let's drop it down a level of attention playing. You stand, you look to your right and lean over. You then look to your left and look to your right again and walk.
No, it's left, right.
Ah, why, one might ask. Go ahead.
You drive on the right
Go ahead,
side.
you have to ask. Why? Why? Why, you say? Okay. When you're standing there, you're looking ahead, seeing if your head is clear. You look to your right because that is going to be the one that is farthest away and on the other side of you. So you see where that one is. Then you look to your left because that's the closest. So you gauge on the left as to whether or not you can go across the first lane. You then check to the right again to see if anything has progressed since you looked to the left. Weighing these two things, you then step off. You begin on your right foot or your left foot? Whichever one works. That is a logical way, something you can learn to affect your idea of paying attention. We do that with apps, AI, reminders, strings tied about our digits. I used to have 8 or 10 of those on my hands back in the old days. This is the logical approach. Good, all right. Let's go to the second, mindfulness. As I was walking around, my walking around was discerning. Didn't quite figure out what was happening. Where is he going? Does he have to use the bathroom? No. I kept walking around and you kept wondering. Your mind was offering options. When your mind offers options, it can do so in 2 ways. One is habitually. That is, you're constantly watching things as they go and anticipating them, analyzing them, evaluating them. Therefore, your paying attention gets a bit scattered. If, however, you think of what was happening, as Bill pointed out, you recall he said it was like highlighting. You recall that? Anybody that doesn't recall it? Well, I want you to see what Phil did with that. I'll read you what he highlighted. Think of attention as a highlighter. Now notice how important this is because this is the logical, direct approach. But now as we explore it with something more or less demanding as simply a laugh, our mind is moving about. There's something called the ginger test, which is used in sushi restaurants where between each bite of sushi, you take a bite of cinnamon. Mindful in doing this, it stops the taste of the previous one, creates a gap, and allows you to go to the next attention. Let's get this in a good perspective. Awareness, our senses, our awareness then can focus our attention. Our attention then is an experience. Our experience is what takes us to the next opportunity, and we continue that. So this paying attention is something that we can modulate. I suggest that we have to do that as we age. In this mindfulness approach, which we call in Buddhism basically different things, actually, as I think about it. But one of the things that we call it is experiential awareness. What is occurring in our mind can be analytical or it can be simply flowing. As I was walking around the room, I was flowing in space and time while you were analyzing it. Mindfulness is something that you can use not as an payment, but as an investment. An investment is when you use something to develop the capability to do other things. So mindfulness is sitting in stillness and quiet as you have this morning, allowing yourself to pause between things and to have an experience of this mindfulness. Paying attention to yourself in that regard, you're then able to pay attention to others. This is quality over quantity in terms of the economic model. In this comparative approach, many things can happen, one of which is that you develop a way of shorthand attention paying. Let me give you an example of that. What's the most important person in a five-star restaurant? Who's the most important person? Other than the customer?
The customer.
One more time?
Chef.
How many of you say chef? Up your hands. Notice the pause in between. How many of you said dishwasher? 4 people got it right. Some of you because you've heard me use that before. Why the dishwasher? Why the dishwasher? Who? What? You can. Yes, yes. So the idea is then that the second most important thing is clearing the dishes from the table. Ever seen a manager clear dishes from a table? I have. Have you seen different people have to deal with that task at home? In my home, I have been promoted to the chief dishwasher. In a long time coming, I was only the make-believe chief dishwasher. But in this story of clearing the dishes, we consume, we have remainder. We take the remainder and put it back into potential for being served again. This is the idea of meaning. I'm going to close with something I thought might be helpful when I look at the idea of meaningfulness. The economic is the transactional. The mindful is resource development, allowing things to occur. Meaning is the value that you then place on what you pay attention to. The Unitarian Universalist Association in 2024 established a new set of values. Interdependence, honoring the interdependent web of existence and acknowledging our place in it. Pluralism, celebrating that all are sacred, beings diverse in culture, experience, and theology. Transformation, adaptation to the changing world and growing spirituality and ethical behaviors. Generosity, cultivating a spirit of gratitude and hope. Equanimity or equality, declaring that every person has the right to flourish. As I look at these, think of these things working together in summation. Tying these three models together enables you to logically follow. It allows you to contemplate, meditate, or reflect on what is mindful and meaningful to you. And then it allows you to develop a value system that determines where you will spend your time, somewhat like a checkbook. I was told once, if you wanted to know what a person really is all about, look at their checkbook. Where they put their money relative to what they say they're doing. The difference between willingness and doing. So as I close, I'd like to offer you a few things that I think can be beneficial. One, be curious, because you're going to have to experience paying attention and not. Always be aware that once you don't pay attention, you have the responsibility of determining what you do next. Your values should determine the rank order of your action when we look at it from the cumulative sense. Having a friend point out to you that you missed that stake in the ground in Oklahoma territory. Asking for help. Being involved in the moment in terms of what you want to do, what you do, and what you reflect on as a result of that. Mindfulness can be developed. Logical approaches can be developed, but your values have to be determined. You do that. You set this up. I have a friend who wrote a song called Be in the Mood for Gratitude. I'm in the mood for gratitude. Gratitude is my ending. We've come a long way, all of us, in terms of our life, and as we approach it now in terms of paying attention to things that are important, we realize that we are paying attention to less, but the importance has grown. Most of my schedule on my calendar is related to doctor's appointments. No longer going to rock concerts, no longer doing these things. But that's what we do every day. Make decisions, pay attention, ask for help, and be grateful.
So glad to see people remember to change their clocks and make it here today. I've been meditating off and on since 1972, one way or another. And I've come to the realization, although there may be recipes for meditating, everybody meditates in a different way. So I am grateful for the term experiential awareness, because before I wrote this poem, I meditated and I paid attention to what happened. It's called Into the Deep. Unclipping my shoulders from the clothesline of anxiety, I ratchet my twitchy bones to the seat. Feet meet the floor. Eyes close, blinkered by sudden darkness, and begin to opening to the spaciousness within. I anchor myself to the breath of life as the carousel of distraction slows down, slows down, slows down. Glorious chords of silence waft deep and deeper, uniting me with all at our essence in this most precious present moment.